Hey there, everybody. What's up? It's us again. I know. It's crazy, right? Another Wednesday, another episode of the Fantasy Cast. Episode number 7, I believe.
7, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I totally forgot how many episodes we were doing, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. I
You guessed
totally
right, though.
forgot. I guess
You
right.
guessed right.
I'm Lachlan McTagg, back again. Joined alongside me is Ty White, of course. Ty, what's good with you, man?
I'm good, Lachlan. Apart from my abysmal fantasy performances by both my teams, I lost in both leagues, and the Chargers got killed. I mean, we got curb stomped there by Baltimore. It wasn't a pretty game to watch. So I mean, other than that, I'm doing great. How are you, buddy?
Doing all right here. The weather's been outstanding here, man.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's been
getting cold here.
like, yeah, it's been in like the high teens, low 20s. Like it was like 25 degrees a couple days ago. It was nuts.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, you guys won't have to listen to Ty gloat. I put the friggin' Chargers.
I mean, there's not too. I'm not going to be name dropping the Chargers much in this episode because of that. Even the. I'm drinking water right now. This is disgusting. I don't know what the heck I put in this, but this is some nasty stuff right here, and it just happens to be in the Chargers mug, so that reflects our performance, I guess.
Oh man. Another note to point out for this week is you and I are playing each other in one of our fantasy leagues this week. This will be a massive tilt.
And I have Justin Herbert on bye, Stephon Diggs on bye, Keenan Allen on bye. Oh my gosh.
Let's go.
It looks like I'm toast, but
let's go.
Oh no. That is true that we are facing each other. So best of luck to you. Yeah. And as usual, let's hop into the episode here and give some advice to all you people out there. Talk about the week that was and the week that's going to be. So Loch, first, like we did last episode, we're going to start off looking back at our starts and sits, what we said you should do for last week of fantasy football, and see how we did. So we're going to start off with the starts here, Loch. Told you to start Carson Wentz at Houston, and he got 17 points, which isn't the greatest, but it's not the worst either. I mean, that's a solid showing from any player in a given week. 17 points. He
was projected 17 too, so that doesn't really. Yeah. That's kind of right on par. So
for sure. I mean, nothing outstanding, but he had a decent week. Typically, anything over 15 is considered a good week. So Wentz had a good week. Do you want to go to the next one, Loch?
Yeah, we told you to start Myles Gaskin against Jacksonville. Whoops.
Whoops. Let's throw that one in the garbage. He had 3 points. So no one was expecting that, I don't think. So Gaskin put up, oh my goodness. But then we went, the other thing that I was disappointed in most, Lachlan and myself, was the Colts. I told you start Pittman and Pascal, and they treated us to a combined 5.8 points. Pascal wasn't targeted once, I don't think. That's wonderful to see. And he was totally healthy and playing. So, I mean, what can you do there? But Jonathan Taylor, who we did tell you to start as well, that's kind of an obvious thing, but he had 28 points.
Yeah, if you didn't start Jonathan Taylor last week, I actually want like some answers.
You're a clown. I mean, you shouldn't have done that.
Let's be nice. Another one, we told you to start James Robinson. Yeah,
that was on you. We gotta give you credit for that one, Lachlan.
Oh, thank you. He produced 19 points against the Dolphins. James Robinson in fine form yet again this season. Back to his former self now that Urban Meyer has decided to actually use him in that Jacksonville offense.
And wasn't it beautiful to see them win in London? Their first win was in London. Like, I can't. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the Jags in London. Haven't seen that one before.
Nope. But I also love the kicker of that story, who like they found off the street or something like that. He hit 3 field goals and the winning field goal. It was like 53 yards, and it was a hard kick too. So
yeah, maybe the Packers should sign that guy. Hey,
I know Crosby's. We talked about that game last week. Yeah, just a bit of a slump, And then Nick Chubb, we're not going to count. We told you to start Nick Chubb, but obviously he got injured. Kareem Hunt, I'm sorry, all you bootleggers out there. We're gonna count this as a win for us. We told you to start him. He had 10 points. This is obviously, when we say this, we don't mean in the event of there not being an injury. We don't account really for injuries here. But Kareem Hunt was on pace to get like 15, 20 points that game, which would probably even more or around more closer to the 20 range.
He was well on his way.
Yeah. And unfortunately, he left injured. Yeah. So that, I mean, we're going to count that as a win, I think, for us, Lachlan. And last one for the
final one, Darrell Henderson versus the Giants. Another big week for Darrell Henderson, 24 points.
Yeah.
Approaching 25 points. Pretty solid performance yet again from Darrell Henderson.
Very solid. And I mean, we called that, and we were pretty confident about that pick, actually. So glad that it worked out. And one more as well. This was more towards the end of last episode. We mentioned start or do not sit Jalen Hurts. And we were right, because he got 26 points against Tampa Bay. And like we said, he didn't have the greatest quarterback game. We literally predicted this. He didn't have the greatest quarterback game, but he had a good fantasy game. And those are definitely two different things.
Strange how that's been happening. Patrick Mahomes has been having a lot of those actually recently.
And I love
he's been chucking up some interceptions, but he's still been putting up like quality fantasy numbers, and you're like, nice.
Couple mallards, couple of rubber duckies over the middle. So I mean, he had that one last game. I find, like, looking back at his career, you see him make all these crazy throws, and ESPN posting about that. I mean, they love him, but it's hilarious because this is the year they're starting to not go his way. Like, usually he would throw that ball and get it away, and he is picked off. So kind of dumb decision making on that part. So I don't know. It's like he's getting exposed for the fraud that he is.
No, he'll have his moments. It'll be all
sure.
good. It'll be all
He's
good.
still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. My least favorite part of that game, though, was when Jackson Mahomes started dancing on Sean Taylor's memorial on the sideline and posted on TikTok. It's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, seriously, that disgusted me. That guy disgusts me in general. I'm not a fan of any of his content, I have to say, but that was particularly bad, dancing on the Sean Taylor thing. So yeah, moving on to sits. We told you to sit Ryan Tannehill, and we were right again. That's another dub. He only had 13 points, which isn't fantastic today for your quarterback fantasy football.
Yeah, we told you to sit Cole Beasley.
Oops.
Whoops.
But we did have good, like a valid reason for telling you to do so. It just happened that he got the targets that game.
Look what
he did with the targets.
I watched that game, and man, 2020 Cole Beasley was out there in Nashville on Monday night. I mean, he looked like his previous season self, and you know what? As a Bills fan, love to see it. Love to see him getting used, because he's such a versatile weapon in that offense and takes the pressure off Sanders, Diggs, and company, really, because he can do those little short yard out routes, cut in the middle of the field, catch absolute rockets from Josh Allen in the chest. And
he's a quiet killer out there. Cole Beasley. And then back-to-back busts here, Lachlan. Henry Ruggsby told you to sit him, and he puts up 18 against Denver. So, whoops. I mean, that wasn't the greatest on our part.
Yeah.
But we're here to get better. You want to go in the last two here?
Yeah. OBJ versus Arizona. OBJ actually decided to wake up a little bit from his season-long slumber so far. Got about 13 points, 12 and a half points. And then we told you to set Miles Sanders against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Miles Sanders only managed 8.6 points. So we were right about that one to close out our starts and sits from last week. Over, done with. See you later.
So to sum that up, we went about 9 for 14 there. Not about 9 for 14. So that's like a 64% completion rate. So I mean, that's pretty good, I think, and hopefully it will only get better, but we'll definitely monitor that coming in the next week. So as always, now we're going over, just briefly, I'm going to go over some players with big weeks around the league. It actually wasn't a great week for quarterbacks, because the highest scoring quarterback was Josh Allen. He only had 29 points. Usually that's weird, because you're seeing the quarterbacks starting to get close to like the 40 range, like Herbert did last week. I had to
Tom Brady as well, and
Brady did have over 40 as well. Josh Allen, Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford, Jalen Hurts, all were between the 29 and 26 range, and those were the 5 highest scoring quarterbacks of last week. Do you want to go to wide receivers?
Yeah. CeeDee Lamb had a nice week for for dem boys.
Yeah, just checking to see if y'all still
Yeah.
dem boys.
Apparently they are. Cooper Cup, another great week for the Rams. Thielen, another one. You know, him and Kirk Cousins were buzzing all day for the Vikings. Jalen Waddle, my Lord.
Yeah, he's very impressive.
That guy
Well,
came to
it was against
play.
Jacksonville. It was against Jacksonville. I mean, take that how you will, but still,
Yeah.
great game.
And then Jones as well. He had 28 there.
Donovan Peoples-Jones.
The Michigan product.
Game. Yeah, that was an awesome game too. There were actually some blowouts here. It wasn't like the best week for NFL football. However, that Browns game versus Arizona got interesting at some points. And then you also had the Cowboys game and Patriots game was really interesting to watch too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think personally that Bill Belichick should have went for that like thing on 4th and 3, because I felt that the Cowboys were going to march back down and score, and sure enough, they did. So I was right. Bill Belichick, Bill Belichick.
Do you see the video that like the guy like recording the Snapchat? It's like they're celebrating when Dak has 1:14 left. Man, those are so funny. I remember there was the photo. It's like, man, they're celebrating, but no, what was it? They left too much time on the clock, and it was the Aaron Rodgers one.
Yeah. All those memes are awesome.
The guy's like holding his phone. He's like,
oh my dude, the best meme accounts are the NFL meme accounts, and it's not close. So yeah, but top wide receiver there, CeeDee Lamb. Running backs now. Some big weeks for some running back, including Derrick Henry against the Bills. It's too bad for Bills fans.
I mean, you didn't have to watch a single second of football to know that Derrick Henry went off, because all over social media, it's just the king. Yeah, he's so good.
Yeah, I know.
The king.
He's been so good.
Yeah.
He's been so good. I personally think he's certainly right now in the top range of NFL running backs, the best NFL running backs in the history of football.
Yeah. But hey, how many did he put up?
He put a 35.
Yeah. Again, goes with our theory.
Yeah, it's either 35 or 5. I mean, that's pretty much it with Derrick Henry. But this year, it's a lot more of 35. He's hasn't had really any bad weeks except for one more mediocre one. Leonard Fournette, who we don't mention a lot on the show, but he's getting the Bucs love using him this year.
Playoff
Bruce
Lenny.
Arians in that offense for sure.
Playoff Lenny's just regular season Lenny now. You know.
Let's not forget Jacksonville just cut his rear end. And now he's just lighting it up over there in Tampa Bay. So good for him. Jonathan Taylor at 28, Joe Mixon at 26, and Najee Harris, one of the most impressive rookies by far this year, with 24. So some big weeks there for sure. And one thing also I want to mention about that Bills game, it was hilarious because if you recall, they tried to do a lateral. The Titans tried to do a lateral against the Bills, and it was the worst lateral I've ever seen. The way the guy threw it, he kind of like laid it on his hand and went like that. He didn't even throw it properly. It was so obviously a forward pass. Yeah. And then I love Buffalo posts to their
the Bills social media is so good, man. They posted on their Instagram. They're like, finally they call a forward pass in Tennessee. Obviously, alluding to the Music City Miracle of 2001, I believe. 2001 or 2000. One of the.
I think it was 2001. It was one of the early 2000s.
Yeah, because I know that was the Music City Miracle was the last time the Bills made the playoffs before they played Jacksonville a few years back. Like that was the start of that was like the whole like curse thing, you know. So it was,
and that was
the game pretty funny. Too.
That was a game too. I was actually just talking to my grandpa about this. That was when they sat Doug Flutie for last game of the season. Yeah. And then he didn't play in that playoff game. And that other quarterback, I forget his name now. It
was the wild card game. It was a wild card game.
It shouldn't have been that close, but it was. And they ended up losing on, technically, I think it was an illegal forward pass.
If you haven't seen the video, just search up Music City Miracle. If you're not a fan of the Bills, it'll give you chills, honestly. Yeah. Because
it's a cool play.
It's a sick play, honestly. Yeah. But
cool play, cool moment in NFL history. But you got to respect the Bills social media team to have the genitals to post that.
The guts is the right word there.
to have the guts to actually post that to their, and obviously calling out Tennessee and the refs. So it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And then we're going to end off quickly, just tight ends, Noah Fant, 24, Mike Gesicki, 19, Kelsey, Mark Andrews, and OJ Howard, about 17 apiece there. So that does it for the big. It wasn't a huge week for fantasy football scoring. There weren't as many, because like we mentioned, there were some blowouts this week. The Chargers game amongst them. So a lot of teams didn't perform up to their usual par, and that reflected in fantasy weeks. It was a fairly low scoring week for a lot of people. We're going to head over to the waiver wires now, Loch.
Yeah. So a couple Cleveland Browns players on. Obviously, we mentioned Donovan Peoples-Jones, wide receiver out of Michigan. You pick him up because he was very good last week.
For sure. And he had that the Hail Mary at the end of the first half, which, I mean, that was a bit lucky for sure, but it was a good catch. He got targets. He had 2 touchdowns that game. So he was quite efficient, especially because you're seeing, OBJ still kind of shaky. Njoku had a horrible, we did have some drops. He did not have a good game. Austin Hooper didn't have a great game either. So, I mean, he was definitely the best player on the Browns offense in that game. And
yeah, the other Browns player now is instantly lifted into fantasy contention is Dearness Johnson, running back now, with both Chubb and Kareem Hunt potentially being out long term. Look at picking this guy up, because what are they going to do? Just pass the ball all day? No. They got to hand it off at some point, and he's
because they are a run first team. They technically are a run first team, and they have the best rushing offense in the NFL, actually. And they put up like 160 yards against the Chargers the other week. It's unfortunate that Kareem and Chubb got injured, but also with that, Lachlan, is Demetric Felton, and that's. You've probably never heard that name before. That's a really weird name, Demetric Felton. But he had 13 points earlier in the season. He's kind of like a Cordero Patterson. He's a wide receiver / running back. But he's someone who can get, or has proven that he's gotten some decent fantasy points in the past. And the Browns are certainly going to be changing stuff up. So those are 3 Browns players actually for you guys to pick up. And the last one we mentioned in previous episodes, and someone who's on my team, is Christian Kirk. With Arizona, because he gets like 5 to 8 targets a game. Usually he gets like a rushing attempt or 2, and when he gets a touchdown, I mean, he has a good week. He's had 10 and 18 in his last 2 weeks, which is pretty good. And as the season moves on, the waiver wire gets slimmer and slimmer with options that you have. So these are our recommendations for some of the best out there at the moment.
Now I believe it's back to starts and sits for this week. So hopefully these ones are good ones.
Loch, we're aiming to go like 10 for 10 this week. Can we do it?
Let's go.
Hopefully we can do it. You can go ahead and start off with a couple of our starts.
Yeah, we have Damian Harris versus the Jets. He's had 9 and 17 in his past 2 performances on the upslope. Get him in your lineups.
Yeah, and especially against that Jets team, you definitely want to put him in. He put up 17 against Dallas, and Dallas is not a light team whatsoever.
Their defense is good.
Yeah. Trayvon Diggs. It's hilarious because people. We have to talk about this briefly because Diggs gets a pick 6 and then he lets up a 75-yard touchdown, which was his fault.
But no one talks about it. Why?
No.
Diggs Island.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not a top, in terms of pick, because some of the things that he's gotten this year are lucky. I mean, that pick 6 was, it was a little.
You know what I say?
There's a spring of luck.
I just say, you know what? Just keep proving yourself. Like if he keeps trending upwards and keeps proving himself and locks down some top receivers, then why wouldn't you be in contention for, being up there in the corners in the league? But right now he's a pretty young guy.
Yeah, he's pretty young, and he's Stephon Diggs' brother, which I actually didn't even know until this past week. I had no idea they were related.
Are you serious?
I thought they were different.
Are you kidding
me?
Which
is weird. I had no idea until I mentioned it on the actual broadcast, and then he's like, he tied his brother because Diggs got a touchdown Monday Night Football, so they're tied for receiving touchdowns in the year, which is kind of funny actually. With 2 apiece. But yeah, I mean, Diggs just keeps getting. He's not great in coverage. He's not great man-to-man, but he's getting picks, so he's keeping himself in the conversation there. So yeah, moving on to the next one, Miles Sanders versus Las Vegas. Now, you guys might be scratching your head over there. Well, Ty and Lachlan, don't you always tell us to sit Miles Sanders? And the answer is yes. And yeah, that's so true. He's had 7, 10, and 8 in his last 3 performances, which isn't that great. However, Miles Sanders and that Eagles offense, the Eagles are starting to run the ball more. And if you actually were watching the game against Tampa Bay on Thursday Night Football, the crowd was sarcastically cheering when they would actually hand off the ball because Sanders was starting to get yards. The team is losing games. So I feel like they're going to try to change something up. They're going to try to run the ball a little bit more. And Miles Sanders will have between 15 and 18 points this upcoming week is what I believe. If I'm wrong on that, I mean, we're going to talk about it next week, but I don't think we're going to be wrong about that, Lachlan. I think we're going to be correct on this, especially against Vegas, which struggling a little bit. I mean, they barely beat, they had a pretty decent game against Denver, but Denver still was able to move the ball against them to some extent. So, and the Eagles offense I certainly like much better than Denver's. So we're saying that start Miles Sanders. Next up is
Jacoby Meyers. We are telling you to start this week. He had 11 points last week, but he gets between 6 and 14 targets, and the Jets are not that good.
No,
they're not that good, guys.
They suck. That's what we talked about before. So I'm not shy about saying that. And like you mentioned with the targets, Loch, sometimes he gets between like 6 and 7, but the 2 weeks before that, he was getting literally like 14 targets. Yeah, so that's very good.
Amount of volume.
Mac Jones likes him. Jones likes him a lot. It's a crap team. We're looking for a good week from Jacoby. Then we also got Darnell Mooney versus Tampa Bay, which he's had like 18, 6, and 15 in his last 3. He gets around 5 targets a game. Justin Fields certainly likes him a lot. He's a very talented player when they give him the ball. Tampa Bay's been letting up, they haven't been the greatest in coverage recently. Richard Sherman just got injured. There's been some problems with their secondary. Their defense is not as nearly good as it was last year, not nearly as good as it was in the previous season. And I feel like although Chicago's definitely going to lose that game, Darnell Mooney could have a big week as well as a touchdown. So we're saying definitely start him. And who's our last guy here?
Devontae Booker. Start Devontae Booker versus Carolina. Why? Because the Giants don't have a running back.
Nope. Except him. No.
That's all we got really on that front. The O-line sucks. The Giants aren't a very good team, but again, what are they going to do? Throw the ball all day? No. And
Daniel Jones has been, not to mention, we're going to talk about him in a second. He's been struggling lately. Booker's had 20 and 10 in his last 2 starts, which is pretty solid. He gets at least 12 rushing attempts a game with 4 targets out of the backfield, which is very good for PPR leagues. And depending on production, Carolina's struggling right now. He could have a pretty substantial week. So those are our starts for you guys. Let's move on to the sits. I'll go first here with T. Higgins versus Baltimore. Baltimore is very, very strong defensively. They have a great pass rush. The Bengals O-line is certainly nothing to drool over because they took Jamar Chase, which has worked out for them so far. But because of Jamar Chase, targets have been taken away from T. Higgins. He's only had 8 receptions combined over the last 2 games. Hasn't done too much of the ball. He's at 10 and 7 points. So I personally feel like although he's not a bad player, he's not going to have a great week against Baltimore fantasy-wise.
Another set is Robbie Anderson versus the Giants. And I really like Robbie Anderson, and it's a shame that he's kind of trending in the wrong direction at the moment. DJ Moore has taken a lot of targets away from Robbie Anderson, and Sam Darnold's been good. And the Panthers have been a pretty solid team thus far. It's just Robbie Anderson's not seeing a lot coming his way right now, kind of trending in the wrong direction over the past couple games. So maybe sit him out this week and let him prove himself further.
For sure. I mean, he's on the decline a little bit, which is too bad. And next up is Khalil Herbert, the running back from the Chicago Bears versus Tampa Bay. Although he had 19 points last week, which is good. I just feel like Tampa Bay is going to tighten up on the run defense. It's something that for them it's very easy to stop. I don't think they're going to be moving the ball extremely well that game, especially on the ground. Other with the exception, I think of Darnell Mooney, he's going to have a pretty good game, like we mentioned. But Herbert, I don't think is going to have a phenomenal game. So maybe around 10 points or less. So that's sit for you guys there as well.
Yeah, the only realistic thing I could see happening with Herbert is that he catches a bunch of passes and maybe gets like a scrappy touchdown for a sneaky double-digit point performance, but nothing more than that against a stingy Tampa defense. Joe Mixon against Baltimore. Baltimore's got a sick defensive front, have really come into their own in the past couple games and are really, really hitting their stride on both ends of the ball. Yeah. And I just don't think that bodes well for that offense in Cincy.
I completely agree with you. You got Calais Campbell, it's 6'8" monster waiting for you in the middle. It's going to clog up the run. So he's been red hot lately. Such a fantastic player. So I firmly believe that you're correct there, Loch. And then last week, I briefly touched on this before, Daniel Jones versus Carolina. Daniel Jones has had 4 and 7 points in his last 2 games. He's struggling. He's struggling a lot. Last game, although we did have more passing yards than he did in the 4-point performance. 4-point performance, he had less than 100. The last game, he threw 3 picks and he had like a fumble as well. So, I mean, Daniel Jones is kind of starting to show his true colors. And I believe that the Giants are going to part ways with him or go another direction and maybe draft someone in the offseason. So those are our starts and sits. And as usual, we're going to check in next week to see how we did. 10 for 10. Here we go.
It's coming. It's going to happen. It's happening.
I hope so. Maybe one time. We got to celebrate if that does happen. But yeah, that's the end of our start and sits.
Hey, Ty, who's the fantasy player of the week this week? Since everyone has been waiting so long to want to find out.
What a phenomenal question. And Loch, I got to get my imaginary crown here and put it on because it's the king, Derrick Henry. And although CeeDee Lamb did have more fantasy points this week and was the highest scoring player in PPR leagues, Derrick Henry was able to put up 143 yards and 3 touchdowns for 35.6 fantasy points against Buffalo's defense, which is very rare this season because Buffalo's phenomenal, especially against QBs. QBs have the hardest time against Buffalo. But Derrick Henry just had a phenomenal week for a team that's red hot, arguably the best in the AFC up until that game. Still one of the best in the AFC. But he just ran a hole through them, and that's why he's our fantasy player of the week. We felt that his performance was more impressive than CeeDee Lamb's.
Yeah, see, guys, we don't just take the top fantasy points and just
although it was close.
It was close.
Yeah.
But see, we actually look at their production and look at the whole picture.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
Patrick of touchdowns too.
You know, if we were lazy, we would have been saying CeeDee Lamb, but we're not lazy.
We're not lazy. We put in a little bit more effort to discern who our player is.
Just a little bit.
That's okay. Not bad at all. And Lachlan, actually, this was a suggestion from you. What's our fantasy question of the week?
Can you trust Darrell Henderson and the Rams run game? My answer, and Ty agrees with me on this, is yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The Rams, I know we said in previous episodes that you maybe shouldn't trust the run game. Because of Matthew Stafford's trade and his acquisition into that offense, we thought, they might utilize their offensive weapons passing a little bit more than they would in the run game. For sure. And we were a little bit wrong on that. I'll take it where we were a bit wrong. The Rams have proven to be a very multidimensional offense, both running the ball and throwing the ball. Obviously, with Stafford's arm and Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp and company, you're going to have your chances to get the ball downfield effectively any down you want. But Henderson, past couple of games, 15, 17, 16, 16, and 24. And Ty, I'll tell you his upcoming schedule for defenses.
Yes.
Detroit, Houston, Tennessee, San Fran, which, Green Bay, Jacksonville, Arizona, pretty good defense. Seattle, not great. Minnesota, not great. And Baltimore is the only legitimate defense in the next couple weeks that the Rams are up against and Darrell Henderson is up against. So expect him to do more of the same and produce above that 15-point mark for the next few games at least.
For sure. And that being said, for the next 8 out of his 10 remaining games for the season, he should have around that mark. We're really looking only there at Arizona, Green Bay, and maybe Green Bay and Baltimore for them to potentially shut him down. But that's a fantastic answer. I couldn't agree more. It's a huge part of that has to do with the schedule. And Henderson, I don't think by any means he's an extremely talented player. I don't think that really at all, but he's in a great system.
Yeah.
He gets targets, he gets attempts, and that's all you need for fantasy football. No, I'm not trying to take a shot at you, Darrell Henderson, but I mean, you're not. Really.
No,
you're the backup to Cam Akers. You're the backup to Cam Akers.
If Cam Akers was healthy this whole time, this would have been a bit of a different conversation with the Rams run game. We were only skeptical because Darrell Henderson was the lead back.
Yeah,
that's what I was seeing early on. But he has proven us wrong a little bit. And again, the Rams, very multidimensional offense coming at you, so it's going to be a problem.
Sure.
And
he's
look for the Rams as well to catch fire over these next couple games and really hit their stride going forward, I'd say.
Yeah, they hit a bump in the road against Arizona. Hopefully for the Chargers, I think it's the same thing. They hit a bump in the road against Baltimore, but hopefully they'll start getting back on track. And I think the Rams are on pace to do that, looking for potentially NFC Super Bowl favorites there with Arizona. So that's our fantasy question of the week answered for all you folks at home. And that concludes episode 7 of the Fantasy Cast. Lachlan, we just have to quick reminder here, of course. Who's the team set those damn lineups? It's drum roll. There we go. Cleveland and Denver. Wow, that's a pooper scooper. I'm sorry, that's not a great game at all.
Hey, the Browns could absolutely steamroll the Broncos. There's potential there.
Sure. But remember, set those lineups because we had some waiver wire suggestions for you there that could be coming to effect, especially against Denver. I would start Peoples-Jones. Maybe one of the running backs are a little questionable, but they are waiver wire pickups that you probably do want to make. So that's Thursday Night Football. Sunday night's a weird one. Sunday nights. Why do the Colts get all these primetime games lately? They're getting primetime versus San Francisco, which it's all right. I mean,
yeah, that'll be an okay game.
Yeah. That's about it.
That's the episode this week. Again, guys, if you want a question featured or have a question for us, please do not hesitate to reach out. We love answering fantasy football questions. I know some of the guys on the team have been asking me a couple questions lately, and it's been nice. But our team also has a fantasy hockey league, and I'm in a fantasy hockey league already, so I couldn't join. Plus the spots filled up, so whatever. But there a couple of guys are scared because I have a podcast talking about fantasy football, and they think that I cover every fantasy sport, so they think that I just instantly win the league, and I have to tell them that it really doesn't work like that. But
you don't tell them otherwise. Lachlan, you have to be prideful to some extent, especially I know there are a couple bums out there. No offense, but there are a couple people who've gotten rather lucky this year in fantasy football and might be sitting at they're 4-2 right now, or they're 5-1. And you're like, how the heck did we get here? I thought I was going to be crap at this. Just pretend that you're good. And that will help you greatly. Just keep riding that wave.
The Fantasy Cast will be available once again on YouTube and Spotify for your watching and listening pleasure. For everyone here at Shocker Sports, he's Ty White. I'm Lachlan McTagg, and we will see you guys again next week.